The ceremony was held in a private estate in Northern Virginia, a stone mansion with ivy-covered walls, nestled in a grove of cherry trees that bloomed late in the season like a final protest against summer. Judge Vanessa Langford, 41, had just been sworn in to the U.S. Court of Appeals. Her wedding to Thomas Delaney, a respected defense attorney, was the kind of union journalists called a legal dynasty in the making. Elegant, high profile, untouchable. Guests arrived in black tie. Secret Service detail was stationed at the gates due to the number of federal judges in attendance. Helicopters buzzed in the distance. No press was allowed inside. Vanessa stood beneath an archway of white hydrangeas and pale blue orchids, her custom Vera Wang gown flowing like liquid light. The air smelled of champagne and anticipation. When she said, "I do," her eyes didn't leave Thomas's for a moment. But her mind wasn't in the moment. Because Vanessa Langford had already decided her husband wouldn't survive the night. Thomas Delaney was known for defending criminals others wouldn't touch: arms dealers, corrupt executives, cartel financiers. He'd made millions, and more enemies than anyone could count. But lately, he'd grown unpredictable. Vanessa had discovered something dangerous. 2 weeks before the wedding, she received an unmarked envelope in her chambers. Inside, a single flash drive. When she opened it, the screen lit up with hours of footage, her fiancé in meetings with one of the very defendants he had once publicly claimed to destroy. They weren't legal consultations. These were transactions. Vanessa, a federal judge, was staring at evidence that her future husband was laundering money through shell companies linked to high-level criminal networks. And her name, her status, was part of the deal. A call came in from a blocked number just moments after she closed the laptop. A voice. "If you marry him, you're in this with him." Vanessa didn't flinch. She didn't call off the wedding. She made other arrangements. Only her chief clerk, Mariah Steele, knew the full truth. Mariah had worked with Vanessa for 8 years, fiercely loyal, fiercely silent. On the night before the wedding, Vanessa handed Mariah an envelope labeled, "If I'm gone." It contained a letter of resignation and full evidence for the FBI. But Vanessa didn't intend to resign. She intended to survive the fallout. In a locked drawer at her estate, she kept a burner phone, a Glock 19, and a set of instructions written in code, left for a man named Cruz. Cruz Morales had once stood trial in her courtroom. She'd thrown out his case on technical grounds. But now, he owed her a favor. And favors had a price. At 9:23 p.m., after the cake had been cut and the jazz quartet had shifted into moody ambient blues, Thomas raised his champagne flute to toast his new wife. "To Vanessa Langford," he said, slurring slightly. "May our love be as unbreakable as her reputation." The guests laughed. Vanessa smiled politely. Then Thomas turned slightly. "And may my past never catch up to me." The comment landed like a bomb. Her fingers clenched around her glass. Only Mariah noticed. Thomas had seen the footage. He knew she knew. And yet, he married her anyway, maybe because he thought she'd keep his secrets. Maybe because he thought he owned her now. At 11:17 p.m., Vanessa and Thomas disappeared from the ballroom, retreating to the master suite on the second floor of the estate. At 11:38 p.m., the security cameras in the hallway blinked and went dark. A scream shattered the silence. Guests rushed toward the grand staircase. At the top of the landing stood Vanessa Langford, her wedding dress soaked with blood, her hands shaking. Her makeup streaked down her face like paint melting from a mask. Thomas Delaney lay on the floor behind her, dead. Gunshot to the chest. 2 in the abdomen. 1 in the neck. Guests froze. Phones went up. Some took pictures. Others screamed for help. Judge Langford didn't say a word. But as the sirens approached, someone in the crowd, a drunken cousin, slurred. "She killed him! The bitch killed him on her wedding night." The estate's private security locked down the exits. Police arrived in 6 minutes. Detective Carla Munoz, lead homicide with Arlington PD, was the first on the scene. She found Vanessa seated calmly on the grand piano bench, her dress sticky with dried blood. Her eyes were dry. Her voice was calm. "I didn't kill him," Vanessa said. "But I knew someone would." Carla narrowed her gaze. "That's not a confession. But it's close." Mariah was nowhere to be found. Neither was the envelope of evidence. The security system had been manually disabled from the staff wing, suggesting an inside job. The cameras in the master bedroom were removed entirely. But Thomas's laptop was missing. His safe had been emptied. And yet, there was no sign of forced entry. Someone had erased the digital footprint before the trigger was ever pulled. Carla brought Vanessa to the station, not yet under arrest, but certainly under suspicion. Vanessa requested an attorney, but she never called one. Instead, she sat for hours in silence until Carla returned. "Where were you between 11:30 and 11:40? "In the bedroom. With my husband." "Then what?" "I took a shower. When I came out, he was dead." "And you didn't hear shots?" "The water was loud." "Who else was in the room?" Vanessa met her eyes. "I don't know." "That's your job." CSI recovered 3 shell casings, close-range shots. But the blood spatter pattern was unusual. 2 separate angles of fire. As if 2 people shot him. Moreover, Thomas had skin under his nails, a struggle. Not with Vanessa. With another man. DNA tests would take time. But surveillance footage from the service hallway showed a blurry figure, someone in staff uniform, heading toward the master suite minutes before the blackout. The estate's guest list didn't match that face. He wasn't on record. Mariah still hadn't been found. And in Vanessa's purse was a folded photo of her and Thomas at dinner, with a timestamp dated 2 weeks prior, and scrawled in red ink across it. "He belongs to the Court of the Dead now." At 4:12 a.m., Carla received an encrypted file emailed from an anonymous ProtonMail account. It contained everything: wire transfers, surveillance footage, timestamps of meetings between Thomas and known criminal suspects. The sender? No name. Just a digital signature. V. Carla stared at it for a long time. It meant one thing: Vanessa had the proof. She could have leaked it to the FBI. But she didn't. She waited until after he died. By dawn, the autopsy revealed an even stranger detail. 2 calibers of bullets had been recovered from Thomas's body. 1 9mm. 1.45 ACP. 2 shooters. 1 target. Just as Carla was preparing a warrant to search Vanessa's judicial office downtown, a breakthrough came. A hotel security camera in D.C. had picked up Mariah entering a room just hours after the wedding, accompanied by a man identified as Cruz Morales. Vanessa's old defendant. The man who owed her. The same man last seen boarding a flight to Mexico under a false passport. But before Carla could process the implications, her phone rang. An officer at the estate reported that Mariah had just turned herself in. And what she had to say would shatter everything. By the time the sun broke through the Virginia fog, the Langford estate was swarming with agents. Forensics vans lined the long gravel driveway. News helicopters hovered overhead, their rotors echoing over the cherry trees. A federal judge's wedding had turned into a murder investigation, and every camera wanted a piece of it. Detective Carla Munoz hadn't slept. She stood in the library-turned-command center, papers strewn across antique tables, coffee staining deposition forms. Vanessa Langford sat across from her, hair now tied back, veil gone, still wearing the blood-streaked wedding dress like a badge of defiance. "She turned herself in?" Vanessa asked flatly. Carla nodded. "About 30 minutes ago. Walked into our Arlington precinct. Asked for me by name." "Did she say anything?" Carla folded her arms. "Only that she has something that'll bring the whole damn mountain down." Vanessa didn't blink. "Then you should listen to her." Down at the station, Mariah Steele sat in an interrogation room, clutching a laptop case to her chest like it held the last heartbeat of her soul. Her hair was uncombed, eyes swollen. But there was no trace of regret, only urgency. "She gave me everything," Mariah began before Carla even sat down. She knew this was going to happen. Knew it would come down to this night. Carla kept her voice calm. Who is she? Vanessa? She was protecting the bench, Mariah said, sliding the laptop across the table. And the law. Even if it meant becoming a monster. Inside the laptop were encrypted files, dozens of them. Not just evidence of Thomas's dealings with criminal networks, but of a massive conspiracy that tied together international wire fraud, contract killings, and bribes to silence prosecutors. Dozens of names, lobbyists, judges, even a sitting senator. Carla blinked. How long has she known? Months. Maybe longer. Mariah's voice cracked. She tried every legal channel. No one would touch it. They told her the same thing, not now. Too many careers at stake. So she made a plan. And I helped her. Did you help her kill him? Mariah shook her head slowly. No. But I helped her call the man who did. Cruz Morales had crossed borders and dodged convictions. But he always honored a debt. Vanessa had thrown out his case years ago. Technicality or mercy, no one knew, but that favor became currency. He didn't just kill Thomas, Mariah said, her voice thin. He made it look like Vanessa might have done it. That was the real favor. Convinced the world she was capable of it. So no one would look too deep into why. Carla scribbled furiously in her notebook. You knew Cruz would kill him. No. I knew he'd stop him. Vanessa never asked for murder. She left him options. But Cruz doesn't do warnings. Meanwhile, a task force had raided Cruz Morales' last known apartment in D.C. Nothing remained but burner phones and a flight itinerary to Mazatlan under a false name. But then came the break they needed. Inside a locker at Union Station, agents found the murder weapon, the .45 used in the second round of shots, and a flash drive. On it was a message, filmed hours after the murder. Cruz Morales, face half-lit in the shadows, stared into the lens with the calm detachment of a man unburdened. She never said to kill him, he said. She said stop him. I chose how. I owed her. Then, in Spanish, La deuda está saldada. The debt is paid. The other weapon, the Glock, was registered to Thomas. It had been fired once. Forensics confirmed it was the gun used in the first shot, a single wound to Cruz's shoulder. He'd been shot first, before firing back 3 times. It wasn't premeditated murder. It was a planned confrontation, turned deadly. Back at the estate, Vanessa stood by the upstairs window, overlooking the grounds where her future had been buried the night before. Carla joined her. You knew he was dangerous, Carla said. I knew he was arrogant, Vanessa replied. He thought marriage would shield him, that I'd protect him, that I'd look the other way. And you set a killer on him. I set the truth in motion, she corrected. It chose its own weapon. Carla studied her. You orchestrated this whole thing. Every move. Every step. Vanessa nodded. But I didn't pull the trigger. Does that make you innocent? Vanessa turned. Does it make me guilty? Carla didn't answer. In the coming weeks, the fallout was seismic. The Department of Justice launched a federal probe. Names from Vanessa's files appeared in indictments. 3 major law firms were raided. Senator Greg Matheson resigned in disgrace after his offshore accounts were exposed. Arrests rippled across D.C. like aftershocks. Vanessa Langford was suspended from the bench pending investigation. The legal world split in half, some calling her a vigilante, others a traitor to her oath. Mariah Steele was granted immunity in exchange for full testimony. Cruz Morales, still at large, was now wanted by Interpol. Thomas Delaney was buried in a private ceremony attended by only a few family members. No eulogy. No flowers. And Vanessa Langford? She walked into federal court 2 months later, not as a judge, but as a defendant. The charge, conspiracy to commit manslaughter. The trial riveted the nation. Prosecutors argued that she had manipulated every player like chess pieces. That she orchestrated a man's death under the guise of justice. that her robe had become a shield for vengeance. Her defense? She had uncovered a criminal conspiracy, and had been failed by every legal safeguard. That her life, and the nation's integrity, was at risk if she hadn't acted. The jury deliberated for 6 days. On the 7th day, they returned. Vanessa stood as the forewoman read the verdict. "Not guilty on all charges," the courtroom gasped. Carla Munoz, seated in the gallery, exhaled for the first time in hours. Vanessa didn't smile. She simply gathered her things and walked out of the courthouse, her heels clicking like a gavel down the marble steps. Reporters swarmed. Microphones pushed. Flashes went off. "Judge Langford, do you regret any of it?" She paused. "I regret," she said slowly, "that I ever said I do." Then she disappeared into a black sedan, Mariah waiting in the front seat. Justice had been served. But not the kind that comes with gavels or robes or Latin phrases etched in stone. It was the justice you don't see in textbooks, the kind that bleeds, breaks rules, and doesn't wait for permission. The kind that knows sometimes the verdict has to be written in blood.